that.
I know Ashley's coming and Meg from. And I've met with Meg. I think Meg and I met with Ashley a couple times on post issues. The whole premise here is to put a face on the phone calls and letters. We're hoping that the Senator Menendez here can step up and help with you. You're Meg?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I got that right. We got a couple bullet points here. The Postal Regulatory Commission went to the hearing today, and I'm not sure if you're aware, I faxed it down to you. I think you have the letter where 27 senators, you have that?
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Now, I know there's a chance that you only have 1 day to sign on, so that's why they might not be on it, which I totally get.
Well, here's the thing. We looked at this letter, and we agree with a lot that's on there. I could just talk from Senator Menendez's office. I think the same stays true with Senator Lautenberg. But we agree with almost everything on here. We just thought that there was a little too much of a focus on rural post offices. And, you know, there's certainly rural post offices in New Jersey. There's no question. They're important, and we want to protect them. But we didn't want to sign on to something where the emphasis was put so much on rural post offices. We thought possibly at the expense of urban or suburban post offices.
Here's the main
but the amendments, I'm telling you, the amendments, we are absolutely in line with. So, I mean, that's the important stuff. That's what you guys are going to care about, because the letter, you know, it's good, but it doesn't have an effective law. So these are the things that you guys are going to have to worry about, and this is what we're
my understanding, Senator Reid's actually trying to get this to the floor now.
Yes, well, not
to put the amendments on there, the 1789.
I mean, everything moves differently, it moves quickly, things change. But yes, this is definitely one of the next priorities on the agenda.
And I'm assuming because since they don't get the amendments before it goes to the floor, they'll do it on the floor.
Yes, there's going to be an amendment process on the floor.
Obviously, we own the Senate. So. We own the Senate, Democrats own the
Senate. With a caveat.
Of course, it's called politics.
With a caveat. I mean, we do have a slight majority, but you need 60 votes to do anything.
Right.
You can block. The Republicans can block anything with, and stop us from doing anything, and they've done that to historical measures over the past year and a half.
You got any idea how many Republicans are on board, or percentage?
Well, for these amendments, very limited support.
Yeah,
and I would say zero, but I don't want to say that right now because I don't know off the top of my head. But I would say that the folks fighting for this, the vast majority are Democrats.
And we know that Senator Menendez and Lautenberg have always been supportive of labor unions, just like we've been supportive of them. And we will continue to do so. We appreciate any help, all the help that you give us. I mean, you're doing a good middle class job.
Absolutely.
That people spend every dime that they make, buy houses, pay their taxes, work hard, and you can't lose those anymore. The rich get richer, poor get poorer. We're part of the,
I mean, the bottom line is, the bottom line is,
get that.
The bottom line is, the post office didn't cause this financial meltdown.
No.
The postal office isn't responsible for these deficits. The postal office, of course.
What are we doing? Make good things to moratorium, right? Postman is down here more on than he be. So we do what he's going to do. Can we stop it? What happens if you don't legislate?
Well, and again, I think that part of it, if we don't legislate, we're in trouble. That's absolutely true. But I think that what was important is from support from a lot of senators, including our bosses, was to at least put a moratorium. Don't go through with this stuff before we can fix it.
Is there a possibility to study it more? So we want to buy.
I think there's always a possibility. I can't.
But you can relay it to the senators. We just ask for time. We need time. Mobilize, do what we're doing.
Well, see, that's one of my other issues.
No, you know he's going to do. You know he's going to do.
Bring up this issue.
We got the EPA. I mean, every federal agency has to go through the process with EPA, make sure it doesn't affect the environment, the eco-social system, all that. The post office used AMP studies from 5 years ago based on certain particular areas through the country. Very few, but now they're going on a national level. As a matter of fact, worldwide. You're going to the non-contiguous states, the territories, and so on and so forth. This has got to have an environmental impact. And all they're using is information from old AMP studies from 5 years ago. My point is they are not doing it the right way. They're using something that they wrote up, which is an environmental assessment. And under the protocols, I think they're at an impact statement, because when you affect a nation, it can't be just an assessment. It has to be a statement, which means they have to go farther into the whole process. You're talking about logistics, you're talking about pollution, you're talking about the socio-system.
The simplicity is that more people are driving further, more gas, more pollution.
Yeah, I've seen some issues about that, and that's certainly an important thing to raise. Do you have any more background info that you can send over to us on that?
Yeah, actually, I'm talking to an attorney right now.
Has the union done its own study on this?
Well, see, that's what we've asked. Joe has that information here. They've requested the information that they've used, and the post office basically says, "Forget it, we're not giving it."
And here is Here's
we
the
would like
two
to say we
briefs.
should possibly do, maybe get the EPA involved that way from their end.
Yes, I think I
I
do.
can scan it.
This brief was filed by us,
Okay.
and this was a response from the Postal Service based on why they should wait and not do this. And basically, their response comes down there, well, we can do what we want.
Yeah.
And regardless of what the Postal Regulatory Commission says, we went to the meeting today, and they basically said, it doesn't matter what we say. We say this, it doesn't make sense, you should wait, you shouldn't do it. They can do whatever they want. So we need intervention from Congress, Senate, and the House of Representatives. Whatever, I mean, you're talking about the Constitution calls for postal service. Once again, Article 1, Section 8 says, we'll establish post office and post road, right? So, we all love the Constitution. Everyone here does.
Do you guys have a business card? 'Cause what I do is, I've been reading the report that the post office put out. And if you go look at their notes, their footnotes in the parts, they talk about how they did not do a wide expanse of all the investigations on the facilities. What they did is they took some studies from a while back and they just expanded on that, which was terrible because all they were doing was impacting small areas of small states or parts of states. Now you're talking about on a national level, which is affecting all the states. So they're using old information on a smaller scale. This is much larger scale, and their own notes talk about how they didn't use any other information but the old information.
Well, I think it's, there's also another situation with the Saturday delivery. The studies they've done on that, there's a lot of questions about the methodology they use and that their numbers, their savings are much higher than what were realistic. So I think that, in order to actually come at this and comprehensively address this, we all have to agree on at least the numbers first. We all at least have to agree on the numbers, and then then we can actually talk and discuss and debate and try to find some kind of compromise. But bottom line, the senator doesn't believe that while we need to make sure that the post office is getting back to solvency, we shouldn't be putting us in the backs of workers. I mean, there's no question about that. And workers aren't causing this, and that to put this on middle class workers, it's just not the right thing to do. And if we continue to reduce the size of the post office and the kind of services they provide, then you're just going to continue this down a slippery slope. It's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy and a downward spiral of the post office. It's going to continue to lose more money. So, certainly we need to make changes. We can't continue, these deficits. But, the first change we need to make are the pre-retiree health benefits.
Absolutely.
The FERS contribution. We need to fix the low-hanging, the simple pieces that we all agree on and that just aren't fair. And then we can look at other things that more needs to be done. So I think
a lot depends on this relaxation of the delivery standard. A lot hinges on that. They can't do all this if they are not allowed to do that. To relax the 1 day, 2 day, and 3 day delivery.
The overnight delivery center.
Now, has the American public or the New Jersey public been sufficiently informed about the consequences of that? I don't believe they have. And I don't believe that their feelings have been assessed.
no, I think you're right.
I'll tell you that I work as a clerk in frontline, one-to-one. A lot of them don't realize that their letter that they're sending that used to go across the street for 1 day or the next town 1 day might take up to 4 to 5 days because now you don't have that
And again, you're not talking about just letters. You're talking about prescription.
Medication.
You're talking about tablets. You're talking about legal papers, taxes. You're talking about mortgage payments.
Small businesses.
Also,
Another Y2K.
this is a slippery slope. It's going to start to trickle down across the pond and hurt all sorts of things.
You're talking about political mail getting delivered 3 days after the election.
That's it.
Not right.
That's right.
I'm sure you got
So we get a
just on
sense
that alone.
of where you guys are on 1789. I know obviously you're supporting all of those amendments, but so is it, you need all of those amendments to even think about being
Listen,
okay on
I would like all the amendments. I don't know. That would be up to my. I mean, listen. All the help
Just
we
to
can
get a sense
get.
of what the most important ones are.
Well, the most important is the delivery standards because that's going to affect everybody's livelihood. After that comes the retirement benefit.
Right.
I mean, there's a pecking order, the 6-day delivery, because without the 6-day delivery, you're still losing your job. So, I mean, those would be like your 3 primary.
And like we said, if there's there needs to be more study. There needs to be time to look it over and say, does this make sense?
That's where an impact statement that they would have to do is slow down their process and give Congress more time to help us.
I can tell you that, Danny, we have been.
You guys know any good EPA lawyers? I got one at Albany. If you got any more, I'll be more than happy to call them.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I was just going to say, well, you know, I have personally been in contact with the Postal Service, and you know, talking about New Jersey offices that are slated to be closed, and you know, we have pushed them to slow things down, to make sure the community's involved, to make sure all the unintended consequences are looked at and understood before, you know, the drastic action is taken. So, you know, we'll definitely continue that, but I think that this legislation is going to be key. Sir?
Let me give you an example. My wife and me, we're in the post office for over 15 years. We both worked in a building that closed. I went one way, she went to New York, which is an hour and 10 minutes from where we live. That building now is set to close. So the post office is essentially going to force one of us to quit.
Yeah, and that was the same thing we heard, you know, whenever I complain about one of these offices or proposed offices closure, they say, well, we can relocate folks. I said, well, families can't just jump up and move 100 miles away. And even then, you know,
Our skills are not to be made.
We need a postmaster general that cares about the American postal worker. We don't have that.
Which is a big concern that Postmaster Donahue needs to. There have been many resolutions passed that he needs to leave. But somebody who's actually going to figure out some reasonable solutions to the concerns. I don't know who's footing the bill for him or what to do, but his concerns of what he's doing is not helping the Postal Service, it's destroying it. Yeah. So we've had numerous organizations, the NLA, the National Letter Carriers Union, the APWU President's Conference have asked for his to retire or be resigned or get out.
We did it today at the PRC.
Yes, and that was brought up again.
Which are in our minutes.
And again, like I said, I don't want to look like that. We're here to show our support for you and hope that you show your support for us and put a face on all the phone calls and letters I'm sure you're getting all the time and faxes and let you know that we're actually real people.
No, absolutely.
You know
and I think that that's an incredibly important point to make. And if you guys are asking, what can you do back in the community? What can you do to try and help us, help you? I think, you know, making sure people know that their neighbor is a member of the U.S. Post Office. Making sure they know that they're real people, that have real families, that have kids, that are struggling right now. And that they're not just these faceless bureaucrats that we hear, you know, some folks, you know, bashing about all the time.
And we've also been through it through Monmouth County. I mean, Fort Monmouth. Most Fort Monmouth. I mean, thousands of jobs and people left the area because of that. Now we're going to do more. I mean, and on it goes. I mean, at the expense of what is the bond? Zero? I mean, that's where it comes to. So there needs to be some stoppage at some point and look at it rationally and try to figure out what's the right way to fix it. Again, the amendments, yeah, I like them all.
We know what the priorities are.
You understand, and I'm sure you're talking to Mike Reed and our national legislative directors and our national president, other people, but again, we came down to show our support.
No, I think this is great. I think it's really important. I think it's fantastic. You guys made the trip all the way down here. There's nothing more powerful than seeing people in person and having them make their point. And you know, we are really thankful that you guys were able to come down. We were to hear you out. And you know, again, we have a bunch of cards over here. I don't know if everybody wants one. But if you guys have any questions, this is all confusing stuff. You know, as it comes up quick, if you see stories and anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact us. Our job is to respond to you and make sure that you feel that you're part of the process, which you are. So, you know, our door is always open.
Besides that, we're voters, and we're strong voters, and we're going to get out the vote like you will never have seen in all the years because all the postal workers are irate.
Well, there's something that this situation has shown, is that elections matter, and that there's a distinct difference.
There will not be anything in the realm of Democrat, Republican, Independent, Conservative. It goes beyond those boundaries. It is the way of life in America. If a constitutional force is going to be ripped apart and people are not going to listen and people's lives are it's going to tumble out. It doesn't matter who you vote for, you've got to start listening. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, just start listening.
And you have in the past, and we appreciate all of that. Thank you very much.
Great.
Just in a different direction on that. When we were in the Regulatory Commission, there was a report on the military mail, and they mentioned that the post office is the largest employer of veterans. Excuse me. Well, the country keeps talking about we have to do things for veterans. Are we going to start off by pushing them out of a job?
I could agree more. I could not agree more.
One more thing on the list, yes.
John, can I just ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you a question first, please?
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Mills, this is the situation we face. Not only everything else, what you have heard, but they don't talk about the economic impact of their studies. Even something common sense like fuel costs, they don't work that into any of the reports. Closing a facility and just trucking mail 50, 60, 70, 80 miles is definitely going to eat up whatever they try to save.
And then we have a no layoff clause too, so there's no cost savings.
Yeah.
Salary.
The 53,000 or 52,000.
We're gonna have a job somewhere.
They're saying that's the savings. Okay, well we're gonna move 40 people to another place. That's a savings. You're still paying them. We're not going away.
Right.
And even if you're bad enough to lay them off, then they're going to have to collect unemployment insurance. They're going to,
Well, no, I have one.
New York, but I have relatives in South Jersey. I just want to say, the reason we're so frustrated, where is the accountability on the part of the United States Postal Service and the man they put in place to lead our industry, and he is seemingly wanting to destroy it. We do the work, we carry the mail, we process the mail. We know that the closing of these facilities has delayed first-class mail. How would you feel if one of your elderly parents was still alive, waiting for medicine, and it's sitting in a trailer in Baltimore, Maryland, because it can't be processed? And it's not because we're lazy union workers. We care. We care. And many of us have been doing the job forever and ever and ever. A totally inappropriate comment at the Postal Regulatory Commission about how, what about the people in suits?
Yeah,
we came
that's
here,
a bad
we're about the people in suits and ties. I mean, come on. There's no need for that. We can be professional. We can dress. Some people just got off work and took a 5-hour bus trip to come down here. Hello?
And we were stifled for those in suits and ties.
I'm
sorry. We're all going to show up in suits and ties for the next postal record.
That's right. I'll have my dress on and my heels.
We appreciate all your input.
One last thing, which you want to, and it seems to be going on in other facilities that they are consolidating. It seems that very efficient facilities are being shipped into inefficient facilities.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that needs to be studied too, because our facility, one of them, a couple of them in Jersey, are very efficient, and mail's going to a facility that's a mess. And I'm not trying to begrudge any facility, but why not keep the efficient facilities going and figure out how to make the other facilities more efficient? That's another something to look at.
Reports are not accurate, and they're
Yeah, that's the point. They're not doing a thorough job of
Like I said, the studies are old studies from 5 years ago for individual facilities. We're talking about they've done something on a national level, they've done old paperwork and things they've done something else. That's what they've done. It's an environmental issue, and we're trying to address it on our end. If there's anything the senators can do at their end, get these involved with the OIG maybe, whatever you guys can do, and say, look, they didn't do it properly. Maybe the OIG can inspect it for us. Like I said, I've been talking to an attorney, and you guys know any
But we have more information we'll pass on to
soliciting.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
Just one on the link that Postal Service just put together. They even admit right on the first page that they really haven't done an accurate account of all the numbers.
They're accurate.
And it shows right on the front page. Maybe it's
Let's comment. Like to bring a sore point up, but when Post Office had the anthrax and track, we covered track. We took all the mail in. You start consolidating all these offices and they're running maximum at a good time. If something happens like an anthrax or even major disaster like hurricane or like we had last winter,
No place for fallout.
they close that place down. Where are they going to go? They're going to be checking 1,000 miles away to get the mail processor.
There's a lot of things that do not factor in.
There's a defense aspect.
That's our concern.
I'm sorry, sir.
I'm just going to ask you to repeat what you said about Senator Menendez's availability and why he's not here.
Oh, we just never had we just never had an exact time you folks were coming.
I understand.
I think you had said between 12 and
30.
30.
I did mention it when we
So because his schedule is pretty jam-packed, to be honest, he's out and he's doing something every minute, so we really couldn't reserve 2 hours plus of block time and say, well, when they show up, and it would have actually been around 3 hours. So that's just the issue. But I can tell you that, whatever I hear, the
Senator Lautenberg has had Congressman
Payne's. Yeah. So but whatever you tell me goes to the senator. We keep him fully updated on all this.
Well, yeah.
Please do it.
Thank you.
Please do it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Thanks again.
If you need anything, give us a call. Thank you. I'll come down.
Thank you so much.
Okay, everybody good?
I think you do, yes. But if anybody does need either emails, Joe here, you probably have my number as well. So.